Greetings, it's Vaygrim. And I'm in a test world. This is actually a new one that I'm using for Mod Guide episodes. I've been requested, and it is my pleasure, to make a quick video about something added to Ender.io called the Ender Rail. Now, real quick, I just wanted to comment. Every single... I have certain habits, certain things that I do every single world. It's just one of those things. Now, every single test world I've got one of these. Because I don't like having my mini-map turned on, as you can see by the lack of it in the top right corner. I like having some quick at-a-glance reminder, as opposed to hitting F3, that, oh, that's north right there. I don't need it. It's excessive, but I do it anyway. It's a habit. Every single test world, one of these is hidden somewhere. And it's just one of those things. You get into a routine, you get into a habit of doing things a certain way. Then somebody like CrazyPants comes along and breaks it up. Now, in this particular world, I have a treble anchor and a testing platform way up high. We are going to talk about the Ender Rail real quick. The Ender Rail is actually pretty simple and very complex at the same time, if that makes any kind of sense. Basically, it allows for the teleportation of a minecart. The farther the cart goes from the point it leaves to the point it arrives, the more energy is required, until it caps out, I think, at about 10,000 RF. And that's just for one cart being sent one time. So if you are transporting carts over vast distances, or there's even the option that you can disable for cross-dimensional travel, then if you are doing that, then you can really do some amazing things, but you had better have a good power infrastructure for it, because it is definitely going to be needed. So, this thing will eat up to 10,000 RF per tick for the largest distance, the absolute largest distance, which would be technically cross-dimensionally. If you're transporting lava from the overworld, from the nether to the overworld, it's going to be 10,000 RF for one trip, one way. That means that you'd better have something that is either making use of that lava very, very efficiently, a 64X lava furnace, or high temperature furnace, I can't remember what it's called, I think it's called lava furnace, from extra utilities. That might do it, might come close. Anyway, all the numbers, of course, can be tweaked in the config. It's very, very adjustable. You can make it as high cost or as low cost as you want to. But also note that the Ender Rail, for every Ender Rail, and I'll show you real quick, these things aren't terribly expensive. It is a detector rail and an Enderman soul, and soul vials are cheap. Endermen are kind of hard to find sometimes, but 10 levels of experience, and you get yourself an Ender Rail. It's actually very low-tech. It's not a whole bunch of ender pearls or special metals and special materials. And I actually have to say, I kind of like that. You can use the wrench to change the direction it faces. And the arrow on it is the direction the minecart comes off of that track. Which means if I had this arrow facing the other direction, which would be west, I think, that minecart would fall to its doom. So, you can see our nice little compass rose down there at the bottom. This is just a kind of a whimsical demonstration to show you that you don't have to think linearly when you're putting these things together. If you want to do something kind of silly like this, you can. Or you can, be more serious about it. These are real simple. However, they have to be on top of a dimensional transceiver. That's where things get complicated. The dimensional transceiver is basically... Oh, that's the old one. This is the original recipe for the transceiver. Now, in a newer update to Ender.io, the recipe for this got changed. It got made a little bit more expensive. And it requires use of the soul binder again. However, he has put an option in to keep this recipe, the easy crafting recipe, in. So you can have the easy recipe left, this one, or the slightly harder one. You can decide. I like the original recipe because this is what I'm used to making. I think this is expensive enough. Enough said. So in my mod pack, I leave this recipe turned on. That's me, though. I think the dimensional transceiver is expensive enough with, this is ender pearl, lots of ender pearls, more ender pearls, obsidian, diamond. I think that's expensive enough. I think that's good. So every place where you have a track has to have a dimensional transceiver under it. So that's something that you really have to think about. Every single location. That means that if you're going to have at least, if you have a network, you're going to have at least 2, if not 3. Because you're probably not going to have this near your power generation, which means you're going to have a third dimensional transceiver to send power to this. Now, the good thing is, the dimensional transceivers used to have a maximum transfer rate of, I think it was 258 or 256 RF per tick. Well, a long time ago, I think it's 710, when 710 transitioned, Ender IO boosted that to 20,000 RF per tick, so you don't need as many of these things. However, 10,000 of that is going to be taken for one trip by one minecart. It's real simple. I don't know if you guys have seen the new interface for this. It's really slick, and I like it. Power has its own tab now. Items have their own tab. Liquids have their own tab. And this is for Ender Rail. Basically, you set... This is receiving, and it's only receiving. A cart never comes back across it, so I don't have a sending number. And this is receiving on 2. It's real simple. So that over here is receiving on 1. Right? If we come down here, this sends on 2. So it is literally going number 2, which comes down here, then 3, which goes over there, comes down here, that transmits on 4, which comes over here, and hits this. This is 1, sends it back over there. You see? So you just pick the numbers, line up the numbers on the sending and receiving. You could have your own little kind of system back and forth. You could have 2 points to this. Now, it does handle multiple locations having the same number, but it basically goes, I think, by proximity, round robin, and it will transport between those multiple points. However, I could see that causing trouble long term. No matter how well these are engineered by Mr. CrazyPants, I could still see that causing problems in other ways. But there was a bug initially with the tracks that I ran across, so this got delayed by a week, this video, but I'm very happy to be able to finally put it out. There actually also has been a lack of videos on the channel for the last few days. For those of you who did not know, I had a very bad cold. I was coughing my brains out, so I couldn't do videos. But never fear, I can actually talk again. I'm not coughing my lungs up every single time I try to say something. So, back to work, back to work. The Ender Rail, I really do encourage you guys to experiment with it. By the way, the chargers, that's literally just so I can recharge my staff of travel. That's it. I'm curious. Yep, there we go. Perfect. They're a little off, and they're losing their timing slightly, but that's okay. It still makes me happy. I'm worried that they're going to end up on the same section of track at some point. I see this as functional and whimsical at the same time. I don't know if you guys remember in Season 1 of Vaygrim's Chance, I did this same trick. However, I did it with some arcane inlay from Ars Magica. And I think this is kind of just as good or better of a solution. You have a bit more control over this. This, you don't have to have it in straight lines. You could go around corners. You could go across dimensions. You could not do that with the gold inlay from Ars Magica. So I really like this, and I really want to come up with uses for this. Now, I'm going to put a caveat here. If you listen to only one part of this video, pay attention now. Player transportation in a minecart. This does handle linked minecarts. It will actually buffer out and relink them. But players in minecarts is still very much a work in progress. It is turned off by default in the config because CrazyPants still has not ironed out all the bugs on it. So keep that in mind. you might want to refrain from doing that. Now, that being said, I have actually tested this with a Steve's Cart from Steve's Carts. I did a tree farm and then teleported across the distance to actually deposit the trees in a set of barrels. Worked fine. I did, let's think. I did a mining cart. I've done this with a furnace cart and a normal cart, a furnace cart pushing the normal cart. And those pretty much stay together. It does work with railcraft carts being linked together, trains and stuff like that. So he has been doing a lot of testing on this and a lot of work. The one problem he has not solved, however, and this, I actually think this is a problem with 1.7.10 because other mods have this problem. When a player changes dimensions, it causes a memory leak sometimes. So when you change dimensions in a minecart, you have odds of actually creating a memory leak that will cause your game performance to degrade. He has not found a solution to that yet, and I'm not sure if there is one in 1.7.10 because Minecraft 1.7.10 is a flawed creation, unfortunately. But we'd love it anyway. So, do remember, in the config, look at all the options for Ender Rail, power usage, distance caps, everything, and tweak it to your liking. This is Vaygrim, signing off on a quick mod guide. I'm hoping you guys are having a good day. Thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.